It was a crisp winter morning on old Whitaker Bluff. The geese had just begun to tussle and honk out from under the frost-nipped cattails. Inside the cozy enclave, a stern man, still playful in his infinite youth, looked on at the day unfolding. He watched as the first rays of sun peeked their way over the horizon and glinted off the bow of the aluminocraft vessel that slowly bobbed against the end of the dock she was tied to. "Steady as she goes, old Cheez Whisper," the man said as he nodded, a thin smile cracking. "Today is the day," the man proclaimed with great vigor and determination as he grabbed the last of his supplies that he had laid out on the table the night before. "Today is the day we beat the great goose in a race across Cronacle's Pond." Though many had traveled from far and wide to attempt this lofty feat, none had ever succeeded. There was something about the sheer acceleration of the great goose, in part with her innate ability to talk trash, that seemed to always grant her victory over her opponents. The latest to have tried was Ronnie Sneezewhack III. Though a truly fearsome competitor, Sneezewhack inevitably fell short in the last stretch when the great goose dealt the ultimate diss.
"I bet your uncle smells like an old barracuda,"
she had said to Sneezewhack as he approached the finish line. Not surprisingly, this was a devastating blow to poor Sneezewhack. So devastating, in fact, he jumped from the boat in that very moment and swam to Bermuda, and that's the last anyone ever heard of him. That was not going to be the case with Morgan Smith, though. No, sir. Morgan was a patient man, one that was extremely creative and calculating. He had watched many races take place against the great goose, and he had been carefully plotting a way to defeat her once and for all. Yes, indeed, on that day of December 20th, 2022, he was gonna take that goose down. Morgan walked proudly down the path towards the aluminocraft, the bag of essential items held tightly in his grasp. As he approached the dock, it was obvious the great goose had already caught sight of him. Her posse was out and already squabbling as the great goose began her strut up and down the shoreline adjacent to the dock.
"Looks like you're gonna need a trash bag, Morgan, because I'm gonna waste ya."
The mind-numbing trash talk had already begun. Morgan maintained his slow, steady breath, not letting the first barrage of insults faze him. "You can keep squawking, Goose. I'm about to let the cheese loose." There was no time for small squawk today. Morgan was on a mission, and the great goose could sense it.
"Very well, fried chicken, Elroy."
The goose proclaimed, hoping the diss would hit home. "Let's do this. Goose, I'm gonna trample your biscuit. I'm gonna butter your bread and trample your Triscuit, Goose," Morgan yelled as he threw his first leg over the side of the aluminocraft. The goose was left reeling from such a serious insult as she stumbled back slightly on herself. Morgan saw this and took advantage, quickly leaping into the driver's seat of the mighty aluminocraft before jamming the key in the ignition and speeding away with a roar of power. He looked back over his shoulder and could see an eruption of feathers as the great goose exploded from the shoreline. Her speed was blistering, reaching 40 miles per hour in a matter of seconds. Morgan glanced at his speedometer. 39 miles per hour. "Come on, old Cheese, she's gaining on us."
"Looks like a catfish got your bum."
The goose proclaimed as she drew closer. Alright, time for my secret weapon. With one hand on the wheel, Morgan reached down and pulled out a can of Cheez Whiz. The great goose screamed in terror.
Not the Cheez Whiz! Not the Cheez Whiz!
Oh yeah, you bloated pond scram. I'm gonna cheese your Krugnik. With that, Morgan pressed firmly down on the lid of the cheese bottle. Immediately, an explosive geyser of neon cheese shot violently outwards, easily quintupling the speed of the aluminum craft. As Morgan bucked back in his chair, the wind roaring past his ears. His eyes peeled wide as he ripped across Cronacle's pond, leaving the not-so-great goose far behind in his cheese dust. It suddenly became clear to Morgan that not only had he dusted the goose, but he had also invented time travel. He had caused a cheese ripple in time. As he sped forward, he could see the reflections of times he had had, all passing him on the glassy surface of the lake below. He brought the Alumnicraft to a slow idle in the middle of the lake. He could feel his life energy pulsating brighter than ever. Stars of all shapes and sizes shot across the sky, the moon shining its blueberry vibes upon the palms of his hands. Perfection, the perfect race, the perfect moment. Morgan closed his eyes and suddenly felt the warmth on his cheeks and then over his entire body. He opened them again to find himself back at home with Catelyn and Dylan sitting together by a crackling fire, listening to old-time radio.
Dad, you really dozed off there.
Yeah, Dad, you were talking about Cheez Whiz.
Well, kids, I have a new story to tell you, and so it began.